Marcus was not like the other soldiers. In a galaxy where strength and power meant everything, he was often looked down upon. His small frame, pale skin, and human weaknesses made him an easy target for the alien soldiers. They mocked him daily, calling him weak and insignificant. But no matter how hard they pushed, Marcus remained quiet. He didn't fight back with words. He didn't need to. The alien soldiers were big and strong. Their scales shined under the light, and their muscles rippled as they moved. They looked at Marcus like he didn't belong, like he was just a tiny speck in the vast universe, would laugh at his small size, his slow movements, and his inability to keep up with their demanding drills. "Look at the human," one of the soldiers, a tall reptilian named Zorvac, said as he stood over Marcus, towering over him. "You're a joke, human. The galaxy's strongest armies couldn't stop us, and you can't even lift that heavy crate." Marcus bent down to lift the crate, trying his best, but it was too heavy for him. The soldiers laughed even louder. Zorvac stepped forward, shaking his head in disgust. "You should just go back to your weak little planet," he sneered. "You're nothing but a burden." Marcus stood up slowly, his face calm. He said nothing, his eyes locked onto the ground in front of him. He knew that fighting back with anger or words would only make it worse. The more they laughed, the more determined he became. But the soldiers didn't know that there was something inside Marcus that no one had seen yet. They didn't know that he wasn't as weak as they thought. After the training session, Marcus walked back to his small quarters. The sounds of the aliens' laughter still echoed in his mind. His thoughts were a whirlwind, but there was one thought that stood out. How do I prove them wrong? His mind wandered to a time in his childhood when his father had told him stories about their family's history. His father was a soldier too, but unlike Marcus, he was always strong, always brave. But his father had told him that strength didn't come from physical size alone, it came from within. Marcus had never fully understood it back then. But now, those words echoed in his mind, as if they were meant for this moment. He sat on his bed and began to think back to his early days on Earth. He remembered the stories his father told him, stories of great warriors from ancient times. These warriors weren't known for their size or power, but for their ability to outsmart their enemies. They were quick thinkers, clever, and they never gave up. They were the true definition of strength. As Marcus lay there, his mind began to wander deeper. He thought of all the times he had been told he wasn't strong enough, fast enough, or smart enough to keep up with the others. The humans had always been seen as the underdogs of the galaxy, but Marcus knew there was something more to his species than what others saw. The aliens only saw the surface. They couldn't understand the depth of human resilience. He knew that. Despite the mocking and insults, he had something they didn't. He had a mind that could adapt, learn, and grow faster than the others could ever imagine. And soon, they would all realize that the true strength of a human was not in their muscles, but in their will. The next morning, Marcus woke up early. He had decided that he would prove himself, not with strength, but with strategy. He didn't need to be the biggest or the strongest. He would show them that the greatest weapon was the human mind. With determination burning in his chest, Marcus began his day knowing that he would change everything. The aliens would learn to fear not just his species, but the strength hidden within him as he walked into the training area. The mocking eyes of the alien soldiers were already upon him. Marcus was ready. He had a plan. He would use his intelligence, his speed, and his cunning to turn the tables. Today, he would show them that humans were not weak. Today, he would prove that he was far more dangerous than they ever thought. "All right, human," Zorvac said with a sneer. "Ready to fail again?" Marcus looked up at him, his eyes calm and determined. "Let's see who's really weak," he replied quietly. And with that, the training session began. But this time, Marcus wasn't going to let them win. He wasn't going to be the joke anymore. The time for silence was over. Today he would show them that the real strength of humans wasn't about size or power. It was about their will to never give up. And that was something the aliens would soon come to understand. The next day, Marcus stood at the edge of the training arena, watching the other soldiers prepare for their drills. The alien soldiers were ready, their muscles flexing, their weapons shining in the bright light. They were everything Marcus was, not tall, strong, and quick. But Marcus had a plan. Today would be different. He had spent the night thinking. He didn't have the strength to match them in a direct fight, and he knew it. But he had something else in mind. Marcus had always been quick to learn, and now he would use his intelligence to turn the tables. Zorvak, the reptilian soldier who had mocked Marcus the day before, stepped forward, a cruel grin on his face. "Well, human, ready to fail again?" he taunted, his voice booming across the arena. The other aliens gathered around, their eyes filled with amusement. Marcus didn't answer. He just nodded, his face calm and serious. His thoughts were already focused on the task at hand. The first drill began. Zorvak was paired with Marcus. The challenge was simple. They were to fight using a set of training weapons, testing their strength, speed, and combat skills. Marcus knew that if he tried to fight Zorvak head-on, he would lose. The alien was bigger, stronger, and faster. Marcus wasn't going to fight him in the usual way. Instead, he would use his environment, his agility, his sharp mind. As the signal was given, Zorvak charged forward, his weapon raised high. Marcus didn't move. He stood his ground, waiting. Just as Zorvak swung his weapon down, Marcus dove to the side, narrowly avoiding the strike. He rolled across the ground and sprang to his feet, quickly finding a training dummy nearby. Zorvak turned, furious, and came charging after him again. Marcus didn't hesitate. He grabbed the dummy and threw it towards Zorvak. The alien soldier was momentarily distracted as he swatted the dummy out of the way. That was all Marcus needed. He darted to the side, using the movement to gain some distance and pick up a training staff. Zorvak turned back, furious, but now Marcus had the upper hand. Zorvak growled and rushed forward, swinging his weapon with all his strength. But Marcus was faster. He dodged and weaved, using the staff to strike Zorvak's weapon, knocking it out of his hands. The alien staggered back, surprised. "Impossible," Zorvak shouted, his eyes wide in disbelief. "You can't beat me. You're just a human." But Marcus didn't let him finish. With a quick movement, Marcus spun and hit Zorvak's legs, knocking the alien off balance. Zorvak fell hard to the ground. The other soldiers gasped, their eyes wide. For a moment there was silence. Zorvak struggled to get up, rage flashing in his eyes. He had underestimated Marcus, and now he was embarrassed. But Marcus didn't gloat. He simply stood there, his staff held loosely in his hand, his breathing steady. He had won the first round, but he knew this was just the beginning. The alien. Soldiers didn't know what to make of it. They had expected Marcus to fail, to struggle as he always had. But today something was different. They had seen a glimpse of his strength, his mind, his speed, his ability to think on his feet. The tide was turning, and Marcus was determined to prove himself. The drill continued, but this time Marcus was ready. Each challenge they threw at him, he faced with a calm mind and steady hands. When the aliens tried to make him race, he used his quick thinking to find shortcuts and ways to avoid obstacles. When they tested his endurance, he used every ounce of his willpower to push through, never letting the exhaustion take control. The aliens were starting to notice. They whispered among themselves, unsure of what was happening. Zorvak, however, was still furious. He couldn't let a human embarrass him, not in front of his squad. As the next challenge began, he stormed up to Marcus. "You think you can outsmart me?" Zorvak sneered, his face inches from Marcus's. "You're nothing, just a weak human with a trick." But Marcus stood his ground. He wasn't afraid anymore. Maybe he said quietly, "But sometimes being weak is just a disguise." The next drill was a test of strength. Each soldier had to lift heavy weights and carry them across the arena. Zorvak was confident he would win, his muscles rippling as he easily hoisted the weights. Marcus, however, struggled. The weights were too heavy for him to lift by himself. He had expected this. Instead of fighting against the weight, Marcus used his intelligence. He quickly noticed the way the weights were arranged and figured out how to use his body in the most efficient way to move them. It wasn't about brute force, it was about strategy. He lifted the weight a little at a time, shifting his grip, adjusting his stance. Slowly, steadily, he made his way across the arena. Zorvok, but already finished and was watching Marcus with a sneer, started to laugh. "You're too slow, human. You'll never catch up." But Marcus didn't reply. He kept his focus on the task, ignoring the mocking sounds. When he reached the end of the arena, he had moved the weight, though slower than Zorvok, but more steadily, and with better technique. The alien soldiers stared in silence. They hadn't expected Marcus to finish at all. They had underestimated him once again. Zorvok looked around at his comrades, his face turning red with frustration. He had been humiliated, but he refused to accept it. "This isn't over," he growled. "Next time, I'll crush you, human." But Marcus just nodded. "I'll be ready," he said calmly, his mind already turning to the next challenge. The day was far from over, and Marcus was beginning to show them that true strength wasn't always about power. It was about using what you had and using it wisely. After the training session, Marcus walked back to his quarters. His body ached from the effort, but his mind was wide awake, buzzing with thoughts. The look on Zorvak's face had been priceless. The alien had never expected a human to stand up to him like that. Marcus couldn't stop thinking about the fight, but he knew it wasn't over. The aliens would never stop mocking him unless he showed them something truly remarkable. He sat on the edge of his bed, exhausted but determined. He knew there was more to him than just his ability to outthink the aliens. There had to be something else. He had always felt like there was something inside him waiting to break free, something powerful that he couldn't explain. Marcus closed his eyes and tried to remember the stories his father had told him when he was younger. His father had been a soldier too, and sometimes, in their quiet moments together, he would speak of things that seemed almost impossible. Stories of ancient human warriors who weren't just skilled fighters, they were born with a special power, a hidden ability that made them stronger than any alien race. These warriors had been able to control their bodies and minds in ways that were beyond normal humans. They had been the galaxy's true power, feared and respected by everyone. At the time, Marcus thought his father was just telling tall tales, trying to inspire him. But now, sitting in the quiet of his room, Marcus began to wonder if there was some truth to those stories. What if that power was real? What if it was something buried deep within him, something he had inherited but didn't understand yet? The more he thought about it, the more it made sense. His father had always said that the greatest strength wasn't just physical. It's about the connection between mind and body. If humans could unlock that connection, they could be unstoppable. But Marcus didn't know how to unlock it, didn't even know where to begin. Determined to find out more, Marcus turned to the old records he had discovered in the base's archives. The records were ancient, written in a language that was hard to understand. He spent hours each night poring over the texts, searching for any hint of what his father had talked about. Slowly, he started to piece together the clues. The ancient warriors were not just skilled in battle, they had a unique ability to tap into a hidden energy, force that was part of them, but not fully understood. One night, while reading through a particularly old text, Marcus found a passage that caught his attention. It spoke of an ancient practice known as the awakening. According to the text, this practice allowed individuals to unlock their true potential, tapping into the hidden power that lay within them. It wasn't about brute strength or speed. It was about harnessing the energy of the universe, using it to shape one's destiny. Marcus felt a spark of hope. This was it. This was the answer he had been looking for. But there was one problem. He didn't know how to perform the awakening. The text was vague, filled with symbols and references to techniques he couldn't understand. But Marcus wasn't going to give up. He knew that if he could figure this out, he would finally have the power to prove everyone wrong, to show the aliens that humans weren't weak. He would become a force they could never ignore. The next day, Marcus began practicing. He would sneak away from the other soldiers, finding quiet corners of the base to meditate and focus. He closed his eyes, trying to clear his mind. He would think about the ancient warriors and their power, imagining what it would feel like to have that energy coursing through him. It wasn't easy. His mind often wandered, and the feeling of frustration would creep in. But he refused to stop. As days passed, something strange began to happen. Marcus felt different. At first, it was just a small sensation, like a faint tingle running through his fingers when he concentrated, but over time, that sensation grew stronger. He started to feel a surge of energy, almost like a current running through his veins. His body felt lighter, more responsive. It was as if he could feel every movement before it happened. One evening, after weeks of practice, Marcus sat in the training room alone. He was exhausted from the day's drills, but felt more focused than ever. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He visualized the energy in his body, picturing it flowing through him like a river, filling him with power. As he focused on the sensation, he felt the energy gather in his chest. It felt warm, like a fire building inside him. His heart raced, but this time, it wasn't from fear or exhaustion. It was from something deeper, something more primal. Suddenly, there was a burst of energy. Marcus's eyes snapped open, and for a split second he could see the air around him shimmer, like heat rising from a desert floor. The room seemed to pulse with energy, and he felt his muscles strengthen. His senses sharpened. He felt powerful. The feeling lasted only a moment, but it was enough. Marcus knew then that he had unlocked something. The awakening wasn't just a myth, it was real. He had begun to tap into it. With this newfound power, Marcus knew that he wasn't just another weak human anymore. He had the potential to become something greater, something the galaxy had never seen before. But he knew that he needed to train to control this power. It was still raw, untamed. But with time and practice, he would learn to harness it fully. For now, Marcus kept his new abilities hidden. He didn't want to reveal them to the others just yet. He needed more time to understand what he had discovered. But deep down, he knew that when the time came, the aliens would realize that they had underestimated humanity in the most dangerous way possible. The real monsters would soon learn to fear him. Marcus had spent weeks perfecting the hidden power he had unlocked, practicing in secret whenever he could. The feeling of energy coursing through him was becoming more familiar now, more controlled. But he knew he still wasn't ready to face the alien soldiers. With everything he had, he needed to understand his power better before he revealed it. And the perfect opportunity for that was about to present itself. The next day, the commander called all soldiers to a special training event. The aliens had been growing more and more suspicious of Marcus's sudden improvement. Some of them were beginning to wonder how a human, who they once considered weak, could hold his own in their brutal training sessions. It was time for a test, a final challenge to prove his worth. The arena was massive, large open space designed for combat training. Alien soldiers stood along the edges, watching eagerly. Zorvak was there, his eyes filled with contempt, eager to see Marcus fail. "Let's see if your little tricks will save you now, human," he said, his voice thick with arrogance. Marcus stood in the center of the arena, facing the alien warriors. The challenge was simple. Each soldier had to fight one-on-one with a different opponent, using their skills, strength, and speed to defeat them. But Marcus was different. He wasn't going to fight with strength alone. He had something more, something the aliens hadn't seen before. Today, he would show them what humans were really capable of. The first alien to step forward was a massive creature with 4 arms, all of them strong and built for combat. Its skin was thick and scaly, and its eyes glowed with a dangerous intensity. It looked down at Marcus, sizing him up, clearly amused. "This will be over quickly," it growled. Marcus didn't respond. He focused on his breathing, feeling the energy flow through him. He wasn't afraid. He knew his power was growing with each passing moment, and he would use it wisely. The alien charged at him, swinging 2 of its arms in a wide arc, aiming to knock him down with one swift blow. Marcus didn't move. He waited, watching the creature's every move. Just as the alien's arms came close, Marcus ducked under the first swing and rolled to the side, narrowly avoiding the second. The alien was quick, but Marcus was quicker. He darted to its side and delivered a sharp strike to the creature's exposed flank. The blow was precise, aimed at a weak spot where the armor didn't cover. The alien staggered, surprised by the force of the attack. "Not bad, human," the alien growled, swinging its other two arms in a vicious counterattack. But Marcus was already moving, dodged and weaved, using his agility to stay out of reach, all the while focusing on controlling the energy within him. Every step, every movement felt effortless, like he was in perfect harmony with his surroundings. With a swift motion, Marcus grabbed a training spear from the ground and used it to deflect the creature's attack. He felt the energy in his chest surge as he pushed forward, his muscles responding faster than ever. The alien tried to retaliate, but Marcus had already moved to the side, striking at its legs with a quick, precise blow. The creature fell to the ground, roaring in pain. The arena fell silent. The alien soldiers watched in shock, unable to believe what they had just seen. Marcus stood over the fallen creature, his breathing steady, but his mind racing. That was just the first opponent, and it had been easier than he expected, but he knew the next one would be tougher. Zorvok stepped forward, a dark expression on his face. He had been watching Marcus closely, and now he was ready to teach the human a lesson. "I'll be your next opponent," Zorvok said, his voice low and filled with menace. "Let's see if your tricks can save you this time." The crowd of alien soldiers murmured, their attention now fully on the battle about to unfold. Was one of the strongest warriors, and if anyone could take Marcus down, it was him. Marcus squared his shoulders, feeling the energy inside him pulse, ready to be unleashed. This would be the true test. Zorvok was no ordinary opponent, but Marcus had come too far to back down now. Zorvok rushed forward with a speed that surprised Marcus, his weapon raised high. The alien's strength was overwhelming, his swings powerful enough to crush anything in their path. Marcus dodged the first strike, barely avoiding the deadly blade, but he knew that Zorvok wouldn't give him any room to breathe. The battle raged on, Zorvok's strikes coming faster and harder. Marcus moved with grace and precision, using his agility to stay one step ahead. The energy inside him surged again, and this time, he felt something different. He could feel his body moving in perfect sync with the power coursing through him, like the universe itself was guiding his movements. With a swift motion, Marcus disarmed Zorvok, knocking the weapon from his hand. Zorvok stared at him, stunned. He had underestimated the human once again. "You're better than I thought," Zorvok admitted, his voice filled with a mixture of respect and frustration. Marcus didn't say a word. Instead, he launched himself at Zorvok, using the energy inside him to fuel his movements. He struck quickly, using his training and newfound power to outmaneuver the alien. Within moments, Zorvok was on the ground, unable to continue the fight. Crowd was silent once more, but this time, the silence was filled with awe. Marcus had done the impossible. He had defeated two of the strongest alien warriors, and he had done it using nothing but his skill, his mind, and the hidden power that now flowed within him. Zorvok, panting and defeated, looked up at Marcus with a new understanding in his eyes. The human had proven himself. Marcus hadn't just survived the challenge, he had conquered it. And now, the aliens would have to face the truth. Humans were not weak. They were far stronger than anyone had ever imagined. As Marcus stood in the arena, his chest rising and falling with every breath, he realized that this was only the beginning. The galaxy had no idea what they were about to face, and neither did the aliens, who had once mocked him. Marcus had shown them that the monsters they feared were not the ones from ancient stories. The true monsters were the humans, and they had only just begun to fight. Marcus had proved himself in the arena, but the real battle was only just beginning. The other soldiers no longer mocked him. Instead, they watched him with wary eyes, unsure of what to make of the human who had outsmarted and defeated some of their best warriors. Zorvok, the one who had led the taunts and insults, now avoided eye contact with Marcus, a hint of fear in his eyes whenever their paths crossed. But despite his success, Marcus knew there was still much to learn about the power he had unlocked. He hadn't fully mastered it yet. Every time he used it, it felt like he was only scratching the surface. The energy he had discovered was still new to him, and he needed to understand it better before he could truly use it to his advantage. That evening, Marcus returned to his quarters, his body sore from the day's battles, but his mind was racing. He had won, but the aliens were not yet fully convinced. They still saw humans as weak, and Marcus knew he had to change that perception once and for all. But how? He sat on his bed and stared out the window. Stars were far away, but they seemed so close now, like they were watching him. He couldn't help but wonder what other humans had experienced in this galaxy. Had anyone else discovered the hidden power he had, or was he the only one? As he thought about it, something clicked. His father's words came back to him. Strength you seek is not just in your blood, son. It's in your will. It's in your heart. Don't let anyone tell you that you are weak, because you will always find a way to rise above. Marcus remembered those words clearly, like his father had just spoken them. His father had never told him the full story, but now Marcus began to piece it together. There was more to the human race than even he had realized. The energy he had tapped into wasn't just some random power. It was the legacy of an ancient human bloodline, a bloodline that had once ruled the galaxy before they were forced into hiding. The true history of humanity had been buried, forgotten by everyone but a few. Marcus had unwittingly awakened something that had been dormant for generations. This power, this hidden legacy, was not something that had been passed down to every human. It was rare, something that only certain individuals were born with the potential to unlock, and Marcus was one of the few. He had been chosen not just by chance, but by his own determination and will to survive. But Marcus knew he couldn't keep this power a secret forever. It was time for the galaxy to understand that the humans they had underestimated were far stronger than they realized. He wasn't just any soldier anymore. He was the first of a new generation, a generation that would change everything. The next day, a new challenge was set before him. The commander called all the soldiers together, and the tension in the air was thick. There were whispers, even among the aliens, about Marcus's abilities. Some were still skeptical, while others had begun to fear him. The time had come to face the reality of what Marcus had become. Marcus, you've shown great skill in the arena, Commander said, his voice echoing across the room. But now it's time to prove your strength in a different way. We'll see if you can lead. The challenge was simple. Marcus was to command a squad of soldiers in a simulated battle against a heavily armed alien force. It was a test of both leadership and strategy, and the stakes were high. If Marcus succeeded, he would earn the respect of the entire alien army. If he failed, he would prove that humans were nothing more than weak, fragile creatures who couldn't survive in a galaxy ruled by strength. Marcus knew this was his moment. He had to show the galaxy that the power inside him wasn't just about physical strength or speed. It was about the power to lead, to inspire, and to outthink the enemy. He gathered his squad, a group of alien soldiers who had once mocked him, but now were watching him with cautious respect. Marcus studied their faces, reading their expressions. They were ready to follow his orders, but Marcus could sense that they were still uncertain. They had seen him fight, but they had never seen him lead. Listen up, Marcus said, his voice calm and steady. We're going to win this, but it's not going to be with brute force. We're going to outsmart them. We're going to use the terrain, the environment, and most importantly, our brains. The aliens looked at each other, unsure, but Marcus's eyes were firm. He had confidence in his plan, and he had confidence in them. He had learned the value of teamwork, the importance of relying on others, and he knew that together they could overcome anything. The battle began, and Marcus immediately put his plan into action. While the alien forces charged forward with heavy weapons, Marcus had his squad take a different approach. He ordered them to move into the shadows, using the cover of trees and rocks to get close to the enemy without being detected. The aliens were powerful, but they were predictable. Marcus had studied their tactics, and he knew exactly what they would do. As the battle progressed, Marcus's plan began to unfold perfectly. The enemy was caught off guard at every turn. Marcus's squad struck with precision, taking down key targets and disabling the enemy's weapons. The aliens were confused, their leaders scrambling to understand how they were being outflanked by a group of soldiers they had once dismissed as weak. Finally, Marquez's squad reached the enemy command center. The battle was over. The alien forces had been defeated, and Marcus had led them to victory. The commander, watching from the sidelines, stepped forward, his face unreadable. "You did it," he said quietly. "You've proven that humans are not weak." Marcus nodded, but his mind was already turning to the next challenge. He had shown the galaxy what he was capable of, but this was only the beginning. The real test was yet to come. The aliens who had once mocked him now looked at him with new eyes. They had seen what he could do, and they understood that humans were not to be underestimated. Marcus had done more than just win a battle. He had proven that the true power of humanity was not in their size or strength, but in their ability to adapt, to survive, and to lead when it mattered most. The galaxy would never see humans the same way again. The battle had been a turning point, but it wasn't enough. Marcus knew that one victory would not change the minds of the entire galaxy. He had shown his strength, his intelligence, and his ability to lead. But there were still those who saw humans as weak and insignificant. The real challenge lay ahead, and Marcus was ready for it. The days after the battle were quiet, but the atmosphere at the base had changed. Alien soldiers who once looked at Marcus with disdain now regarded him with respect, even fear. Word had spread quickly throughout the galaxy of the human who had outsmarted and defeated some of the most powerful warriors. But Marcus couldn't rest on his success. There was still much to be done. He sat in his quarters late one evening, staring at the stars outside the window. His mind raced with thoughts of what was to come. He had proved himself to the aliens. He fought, but the larger question remained. How could he change the way humans were seen in the galaxy? How could he make them understand that humans were not weak, that they were a force to be reckoned with? The answer came to him unexpectedly. It wasn't just about fighting battles. It wasn't just about strength or power. It was about standing up for what was right, for the ones who couldn't stand up for themselves. Humans had a unique gift. They were willing to fight for others, to protect the weak and the helpless. That was what made them dangerous. And that was what would make the galaxy take notice. Marcus stood up, his resolve stronger than ever. He couldn't wait for the aliens to come to him. He would go to them. He would make them see that humans were not just soldiers to be used in battle. They were leaders, protectors, and warriors in their own right. He would show them that the true power of humanity was in its heart, its determination, and its ability to fight for those who could, not fight for themselves. The following day, Marcus stood before the commander, ready to take the next step. "I have a plan," he said firmly. "I want to take a group of soldiers and make a stand against a galaxy-wide injustice." The commander raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean? There are planets out there where the weak are oppressed, where entire species are crushed under the rule of those who see themselves as superior. We can make a difference," Marcus explained. "Humans may not have the most advanced technology or the most powerful fleets, but we have something more important: the will to stand up for the helpless." The commander looked at him thoughtfully. "And you think this will change their minds about humanity?" "It's the only way," Marcus replied. "If we show them that we are not just fighters, but leaders, that we will not stand idly by while others suffer, then the galaxy will have no choice but to recognize us. And maybe, just maybe, they will see that humans are not weak. We are stronger than anyone gives us credit for." The commander nodded slowly. "You've made your case. I'll give you the resources you need. Remember, Marcus, this is dangerous. The galaxy is full of enemies who will not hesitate to destroy you if they see you as a threat." "I'm not afraid," Marcus said, his voice steady. "I have nothing to lose. But I will not sit back and let others suffer. If we can save even one life, it will be worth it." With the commander's approval, Marcus assembled a team of soldiers. He handpicked the best of the best, alien soldiers who had once looked down on him, but now saw him as their leader. Together, They would travel to the outer rim of the galaxy, where a war was raging between two alien factions. One side, the Scifi, had been oppressing the weaker species for years, and Marcus knew that this was the perfect place to make a stand. As their ship approached the war-torn planet, Marcus felt a sense of purpose wash over him. This wasn't just about proving himself anymore. It was about doing what was right. It's about showing the galaxy that humans had the strength and the heart to fight for others. When they landed, the scene before them was grim. The Scifi had taken control of the planet's capital city. The weaker species were being forced into labor camps, treated like animals. The cries of the oppressed filled the air, and Marcus could see the fear in the eyes of the people who had given up hope. But Marcus wasn't here to feel sorry for them. He was here to change their fate. He gathered his team together and made a plan. They would infiltrate the Scifi stronghold, disrupt their operations, and free the prisoners. It would be dangerous, but Marcus knew that this was their chance too. Show the galaxy what humanity was capable of. They would strike fast, hit hard, and leave a mark that could never be erased. The mission was set in motion, and Marcus led his team through the dark streets of the city. They moved silently, using the shadows to their advantage, just as he had done in his earlier training. Every step was calculated, every movement precise. When they reached the prison, they launched their attack, taking the Scifi by surprise. The battle was fierce, but Marcus's team fought with a purpose. They weren't just fighting for themselves, they were fighting for the freedom of the oppressed. The Scifi soldiers caught off guard were no match for the coordinated strike. Marcus's team broke through the prison gates and freed the captives, who rushed out in a wave of relief and joy. As the last of the prisoners escaped, Marcus stood at the center of the battlefield, his heart pounding with adrenaline. They had won. The galaxy would hear about this. The Scifi would know that humanity had come to make a stand, and they would not stop until justice was done. The people of the planet hailed Marcus and his team as heroes. But Marcus didn't need their praise. He had already won. He'd shown the galaxy that humans were not weak. They were powerful. They were willing to fight for what was right, no matter the cost. And that was something the universe would never forget. As they boarded their ship and prepared to leave, Marcus looked out at the planet below. This was just the beginning. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity was not to be underestimated. They had only just begun to fight.